Hello everyone, welcome to the first audio blog in this series, and our series is going to be focusing on the course content that we're offering in our website. Today's audio blog would be around source control system. Some of you have asked different questions about how this would be useful to you if you are an undergrad student and at a junior level or a senior level. Even if you have graduated, maybe you're looking for your first job or in between transitions, and this would be applicable to those individuals as well. And in today's audio blog, I'm going to share two different slides, and we're going to walk through the slides to show you what is at stake. I know that a lot of people might think that these are very obvious thing to know, but you might be surprised that not everyone, not all school programs are fine-tuned with a GIT or any source control system as part of their academic curriculum. So usually if you are fortunate enough to go for a co-op program or intern program at a well-known company, maybe they might be using this source control system, else the chances are you might have heard of them. Maybe there are chances that you have cloned a repo, but nothing beyond that. So let me share the slides. Let me bring up the window right here. Just give me a second. And it should be there momentarily. So this slide, I would like you to beam into this stage. So we have set the stage here. We have three different characters. Think of Cam and Ashley in their first job. Maybe they have never worked in a professional job. Maybe they're fresh out of school without any co-op or internship experience. Or maybe let's say that they are in their first co-op or intern job. And the first day of job, usually the companies, mid-sized to big companies, they will provide you with a few weeks of training. It depends. It's not same across the board. Some companies will offer you 3 to 4 weeks of training, and you might be spending time with a senior developer or senior individual within the team, or maybe a junior individual who has more experience in the area you're going to be working on. So in this case, as you can see, your first day at job, imagine Doctor Who walked into the meeting room. I mean, you have a bunch of donut, you have a cup of coffee, and then you're just starting off with your day, and then you're all relaxed. And then as the training ramps up, the first thing usually you're going to do is likely you have a development machine. Likely it's a Linux laptop or a Macintosh. It depends. It depends on the company what they're offering you. So chances are you have already did the initial setup. You logged in using your corporate credentials and whatnot. Usually the first step that happens at job is you need to bring down the code that you're going to be working on. Imagine you're working on a software project, and so you need to bring down the code so the trainer can train you on the areas you're going to be working on, and the trainer will show you how to fix some bugs or even what's the process to add a new feature. Maybe to start off with, maybe you'll be developing a small feature. And in this case, as you can see, the bubble on the left, if you can see, is if you can see my mouse pointer, the trainer in this case is asking you to add some documentation to some Keras library. By the way, engine/data adapter is a real Python code inside Keras library. If you look into it, you'll find it. So it's not something made up. But in this case, just for hypothetical example, we're going to be using this name. So imagine nothing big you're changing. You're just updating some docstring. In Python world, in code documentation, usually you'll be using docstring. And as part of the docstring, what you're going to be doing is, let's say some senior developer did not have the chance, and they're going to ask you to, okay, let's fill up this docstring. Usually when you start off, you're going to be doing very what you call simple things to get you started, and then gradually they're going to give you more and more challenging and difficult tasks. So in this case, I would like to imagine that the first thing you got to ask is, hey, Cam and Ashley, let's go ahead, now that you have your machine set up, you can go ahead and clone your repo. And imagine if you did not have much background on Git or GitHub, and maybe you have some basic background in clone repo, you'd be sitting in limbo. As you can see, our confused Cam in here is having this mind cloud, and he's thinking, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. And maybe he's thinking he's so lost and confused because he did very basic things. But beyond that, imagine the instructor or your trainer is not going to give you much of an instruction because he or she might assume that you already have those type of exposure as part of your academic curriculum. However, in this case, Ashley has been very lucky, and she was always proactive, and she always took the proper measure to train her before she starts off with her first job. As you can see, and she's very excited, and all the text in green, she knows exactly what to expect. And I put up a bunch of shell command. Usually if you open a Linux terminal, you'll see a $sign. And I know I'm stating the obvious, but some of you may not have used command line before, but not to worry if you haven't used that before. Just follow along those examples in here. One of the statement is saying that I'm trying to clone a Keras library from GitHub. Think of GitHub. GitHub is a server, is a source code server where all the codes are saved. And so what you're saying is you're cloning the Keras, and then you're checking out code. You're doing a bunch of things. So I'll mention the fact that this course is not about. This audio blog is not about how to use Git. We're showing you two different scenarios. The punchline in here is we're trying to depict what is at stake if you do not have this knowledge. And at any job, be it an internship job or co-op job or even a junior developer, the first job, professional job of your life after you graduate from your computer science or computer science and engineering program or your electronics engineering program, first impression goes a long way. So usually my experience indicates that as people get trained on, the first impression usually made in first 2 to 3 weeks, they tend to stick for a while, unless someone improves drastically with a lot of hard work. But let's not count on it. In this case, we're thinking that we could help you somehow to be prepared for those type of scenario. And if you are one of those individuals and was thinking that, okay, you know what, I may not have this done in a job, I have done some open source program. The question usually that comes down to is how far the exposure you had. And that will lead us to the next slide. So I have a bunch of questions in here. I have 6 points in here. My intention is not to read through them, but let's try to read them and see how, and try to answer each of these questions from your point of view and see how many of them you have done. Even if you have done half of them, it may not be enough. This is where we come in. And as part of our course content, we are offering those knowledges using open source applications, or we'll be developing demo applications where you get to practice these 6 bullet points. Believe it or not, from the experience, we have seen that with this very simple steps from 1 to 6, if you know this, you can make a pretty darn good impression in your first job. And not to mention, you can get by without major headache for at least a year or 2. And likely, if you need any help, you might need to watch some YouTube videos or Google something up. But at least you won't be in as awkward a position as Cam there. So as for someone who has more coding experience, maybe you have been a junior developer for a year or 2, you'll be surprised that these might be applicable to some senior developers too. And especially for the people who are starting, it may not be very obvious to you. Nobody's going to tell you this. Unfortunately, people do not tend to talk about it unless some people are vocal about it. Likely these are not going to come to your radar. So usually what you'll see is these as in a team, you'll see that a different developer has a different type of experience. So you'll see that sometimes you'll come across individual. I'm pretty sure in your development lifetime, you will have your path cross at least one such individual, or maybe more if you're unlucky. I hope that that's not the case. So if sometimes you will see that people are striving for the perfect software, and there's no such thing as writing perfect code, okay? Because it's funny, I would say that if you start writing perfect code, right, they have no need for you. Now, I'm not eluding the fact that you shouldn't write perfect code. It's just naturally not possible, right? There will always be unintentional miss. There will always be gap that you'll have to fill in, right? So expecting from someone junior or someone who has less experience than you that this person is going to be delivering the perfect software with his or her first PR. PR stands for pull request, or second PR, or the third. It's not going to be very, very realistic because it is going to cause problem downstream. And if you haven't seen the sign of it yet, then know that here is one symptom. If you are a fairly junior developer with a couple years of experience, or even if you're a senior developer, and in the last 6 months, if your manager spoke to you more than 2 times about try to finish a PR review quick, then know that there is a huge psychological underpinning behind code review. And as someone with experience, if you're not careful with this, and it can create it have associated cost, and sometimes it can cause even people leaving the team, right? It can happen. We have seen that happening in the past. People switches team and people are not happy with the code review process. But some managers are pretty good. They take measure in addressing those issues. I'm not saying everyone is same, but there are a lot of good managers out there who's going to be looking after those problems. However, before it becomes a problem, we can help you and assist you in those unspoken psychological underpinning behind the code review. And that is all I had for today's audio blog. And if you have any question, you can always reach us. You will find the contact us button. And also in the course content, please scroll around and stay tuned for more of the audio blog around other topics. And thank you so much for listening.